Hey guys, Shiko here. Today we'll be going over a guide for Blue Protocol's dungeon, Chaotic Realm, Dark Mist Fortress Hard. The requirements for this dungeon are 3 to 5 players, with a minimum armor rating of 10,930. You'll have 15 minutes for ads and 6 minutes for the boss, Denville. Throughout this dungeon, players will be inflicted with Void Corruption. If the player's bar for Void Corruption reaches 100, the player will lose their sanity, resulting in death. In order to prevent this bar from reaching 100%, players must interact with the Void Cleansers. Interacting with one will cleanse every player of their Void Corruption back to 0. When players reach the boss room, they will notice that there are 2 Void Cleansers found in the southwest and northeast corners of the room. They will periodically reset as the fight persists, so players should use them to help cleanse corruption throughout the fight. The first mechanic the boss will cast is called Void Corruption Mark. A random player will be marked for an imprint which will cause damage and leave a corruption puddle wherever the AoE is placed. The puddle persists until the end of the fight, so players who are marked should drop it towards the outer edge of the arena to give as much safe space as possible. Once enough damage is dealt, the boss will become invulnerable and begin his Void Corruption Cleave. If the cleave is successful, the party will gain 100% corruption and wipe. In order to prevent this, the tank must interact with the shield and continuously click to ensure that the cleave does not wipe the party. During this time, corruption orbs will spawn rapidly at the outer edge of the arena heading towards the tank. Since the tank is slowly generating corruption themselves, players must intercept these orbs to prevent them from reaching the tank. There will be yellow orbs that spawn. These heal corruption for 100% and must reach the tank. If they don't, the tank will gain too much corruption and die. The boss will transform and begin phase 2. At this point, I recommend activating a cleanser so that the slate is clean for the next mechanics ahead. Upon entering phase 2, the boss will create a rift down the middle of the arena. When a player crosses this rift, all players will receive minor raid-wide damage as well as 10 extra corruption points to their bar, so take caution to only cross when necessary. At some point, the boss will corrupt half of the arena, making it unusable to stand on. If the party is on the side of this mechanic, players will have to group up and cross the corruption rift together in order to prevent excess corruption and avoid taking repeated damage. The next mechanic of this phase is called Void Corruption Decay. The boss will mark 2 random players with proximity markers, and after a short delay, those 2 marked players will erupt, dealing damage to all players. The closer the other party members are to the marked player, the more damage they will receive. The 2 marked players should make their way to the topmost corner and southernmost corner of the arena, while the rest of the party stays close to middle as possible, in order to mitigate damage. The boss will cast Void Corruption Thrust. This is a simple line AoE that you just have to dodge. The next mechanic the boss can cast is called Void Corruption Waltz. Huge circular AoEs will begin at the middle of the arena and spiral outwards, covering the entire arena before detonating. Players should try to perfect dodge this, as getting hit will increase their corruption bar by 33%. The last new mechanic for this phase is called Void Corruption Fracture. This is a tank buster that will pierce the tank, leaving him incapacitated while the boss slams the tank behind him. So tanks should position the boss to make sure they don't end up somewhere they don't want to be. And just be mindful that Void Corruption Mark will also make a reappearance in phase 2, so just bring these to the edge of the arena. And that concludes our guide. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, take care.